Welcome to this explainer. Today we're looking at a truly fascinating shift happening in the world of learning. We're going to explore the work of M.A. Abrahamad and the Safe Educational Leaping Foundation, or SELF for short. What they've put together is a blueprint that directly challenges the exhausting, high-stress educational rat race that, let's be honest, we've all just kind of accepted as normal.
It all really starts with a simple but honestly pretty heartbreaking question. Are we witnessing a silent crisis of curiosity? I mean, think about it for a second. Every single child enters this world with their eyes wide with wonder, right? They're always asking why and how about absolutely everything. Yet somehow, as they move through our modern educational system, that brilliant natural light of curiosity, it gets systematically traded away. It's swapped out for the mechanical, relentless pursuit of credentials. The classroom, which is supposed to be this amazing place of discovery, is way too often reduced to a high-stakes transaction. And in that transaction, the only currency that matters is a grade, and the only destination is a job.
Okay, let's dive into this because M. Abrar Ahmad and the foundation are really pushing back against this transactional tide, as you can see with their Self-Falah emblem, which perfectly illustrates the cultivation of success, growth, and harmony. This really encapsulates their core mission. They're entirely dismantling that career-first obsession that plagues our schools, and they're replacing it with a dignity-first model. It's a total paradigm shift. They're proving that when you fundamentally protect and nurture a child's sense of worth, academic excellence doesn't actually have to be forced, it just follows naturally. To really understand this shift, we're going to walk through the 5 core lessons of the Self Blueprint today. We've got 1, the leap, not the ladder; 2, faith-sensitive modernity; 3, dignity as a prerequisite; 4, community as the classroom; and finally, 5, translation as transformation. So let's jump right into lesson 1, the leap, not the ladder, rethinking educational progress. For generations, we visualized education as this ladder you have to climb. But honestly, that ladder is a super fragile, narrow construct. Did you know that nearly 75% of high schoolers report negative feelings about school? That's almost 3 out of every 4 kids, and it's mostly driven by stress and pressure. That is exactly what the ladder does. It implies this rigid, one-way climb where a single missed rung feels like a devastating fall. It's precarious. It's entirely driven by fear. Self demands we abandon this whole idea for the leap. Now, a leap is defined by momentum. It represents expansive growth and gives the student the actual freedom to explore without the terrifying fear of falling off a preset path. It literally moves the student from being a passive passenger, just hanging onto a rung for dear life, to an active seeker of knowledge.
And this brings us to a really foundational quote from the blueprint. It says, instead of partnering or attending a session for the sake of grades, degrees, and jobs, self is rooted in a commitment to dignity and equity. And that's so powerful, right? When you strip away that suffocating mechanical pressure to just advance to the next grade, you actually allow a child's natural love of learning to breathe again. Moving on to lesson 2, faith-sensitive modernity, blending best practices with timeless values.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how the foundation elegantly blends cutting-edge pedagogy with timeless Islamic principles. They don't exist in a vacuum. They integrate concepts like rahma, which is mercy; ta'allum, the actual act of knowledge-seeking; adl, representing justice; and umma, which means community care. By weaving these specific principles right alongside universal virtues like kindness and fairness, Self creates what they call a faith-sensitive environment. This model is incredibly inclusive because it respects the child's whole identity. It ensures that spiritual grounding and ethical conduct are viewed as powerful assets to modernity, rather than, obstacles to it.
Lesson 3, dignity as a prerequisite, the root of knowledge.
Safety in the Self methodology is defined as a psychological sanctuary. Now, this isn't just about physical security. This is a state where a child feels inherently valued. It means actively matching their specific socioeconomic background, their culture, and their totally unique circumstances with the exact support they need to thrive. Nurturing this profound sense of dignity is the absolute prerequisite for any real learning to take place. When a child feels truly seen and respected, the immense barriers created by poverty or cultural displacement, they actually begin to crumble. Notice the green sprout emerging directly from the open book in the logo here? It's such a great visual anchor for this concept. The book of knowledge can only grow new life if the soil it's planted in is rich with dignity. Dignity is the bedrock, the absolute foundation from which all true intellectual and moral growth emerges. So, the crucial point is captured beautifully in this prophetic encouragement. Seek knowledge for the benefit of the self and society.
By framing education this way, it entirely ceases to be a selfish tool just for personal gain or, resume building. It elevates learning into a sacred duty, one that's rooted deeply in both self-respect and social contribution.
Which brings us to Lesson 4, Community as the Classroom, a Collective Responsibility. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what we're talking about. We see that joyful, dynamic figure leaping out from the center, but beneath it is a home, filled with family and community, seamlessly integrated with the open book. The self model asserts that education is a shared, collective responsibility. We have to dismantle the walls between the home and the school. Parents, teachers, and community members aren't just spectators in all this. They are equal, vital partners in a child's moral and intellectual development.
But self recognizes a very practical reality here. You absolutely cannot empower the child without first empowering the adults who surround them. I mean, anyone who's tried to help a kid with modern math homework knows exactly the struggle I'm talking about. To actually make this work and increase equity, the Foundation provides specialized professional development for educators alongside highly practical hands-on workshops designed specifically for parents.
And now, our final lesson, Lesson 5, Translation as Transformation. From jargon to empowerment.
Let's move to and see how this builds into an actionable framework, because sophisticated research is useless if it just stays trapped in an academic journal, right? This is the translation engine of self in action. They act as a bridge, taking the complex evidence found in academic journals and literally translating it into everyday kitchen table strategies. This process is the engine of equity. By taking academic jargon and turning it into resources perfectly tailored for diverse socioeconomic contexts, they ensure that high-quality, evidence-based learning strategies are not just some luxury for the elite. They give every family, regardless of their circumstances, the tools to foster their child's growth right at their own kitchen table. When we pull all 5 of these lessons together, we see that the Safe Educational Leaping Foundation is offering so much more than just a new curriculum. They are offering a comprehensive blueprint for the future. By placing dignity at the absolute center, blending faith-sensitive values with modernity, and making the community a true partner, they are building a system that honors the child just as much as the subject matter being taught.
I want to leave you with a thought to carry with you long after this explainer ends. It's a question that gets to the very heart of this self-philosophy. Think about your own life, or maybe the life of a child you really care about. If we stripped away the crushing pressure of grades, the anxiety of building a resume, and that terrible fear of the educational ladder, what would you truly want to learn today? When dignity comes first, curiosity is limitless. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer.